Hey, everybody, this is Scoots. This is a new kind of experimental version of Sleep With Me we've never done before. So welcome. These are just bedtime stories from our podcast, Sleep With Me. And to make them feel fresh, these ones are from a couple years ago. So if you're a regular listener, you might get a refresh. And if you're new, these are just bedtime stories from a show called Sleep With Me. They're strange, they're meandering, they're a little bit different. And all this is made possible by listeners like you, regular listeners like you. And so I just want to let you know that's how we're able to put the show out. And so if you are a fan of Sleep With Me, you listen to it on a regular basis, please consider supporting the show. You get ad-free episodes, you get ad-free story-only episodes, tons of other cool stuff at Sleep With Me Plus. That's sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. But if you're in a position and you have some money every month, or you say, hey, maybe I don't watch that streaming service, I'd rather give it to a podcast, think about your favorite podcast. It doesn't have to be Sleep With Me, and support that podcast. If it is Sleep With Me, I consider supporting the show would be great. But if it isn't, or there's a podcast you listen to way more, brings you a lot of value during the day, please support that podcast. Podcasting is going through a different time right now, and your favorite podcast, the one you get the most out of, could use your support the most. So consider supporting it however they request support. Just check it out, like listen to the show or check out their website, or consider supporting Sleep With Me. If Sleep With Me, you say, oh no, Sleep With Me is the one I listen to the most, sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. Thanks. Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the podcaster who's here to welcome you. I'm so glad you're here, so I can help keep you company and take your mind off of stuff. If you're new, welcome. You're in, I wouldn't say you're in for a treat. You're in for something different, and it may be a treat to you, but I hope I can help. I'm so glad you're here. It's time for Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. Hey, everybody, this is Scoots. This is a quick message here. If you get a lot out of Sleep With Me, if you're a regular listener, you like these new things we're trying out, like the story-only version of the show. If you're new, don't worry about any of this. But if you're a regular listener of Sleep With Me, or you're a regular listener of any podcast, if you have a favorite podcast, and it's not Sleep With Me, that's totally cool. If you have podcasts you listen to way more, or you get way more value out of, I totally understand that. Consider supporting that podcast. Podcasting as an industry is kind of going through a weird phase right now. Direct support from listeners is going to be, it seems like it's going to be the future of most shows. And so consider supporting the podcast you really love. And you could do that. You could find out, you could listen to the show and see how they ask to be supported, or reach out to them and say, hey, how can I support you? Or if you can't afford, a few dollars a month, you say, hey, how else can I support you? But if Sleep With Me is the one, Sleep With Me Plus is the best way to support Sleep With Me. Sign up for Sleep With Me Plus. Not only you get unbelievably sweet different ways to listen to the show, but it's a huge help for us to be able to do stuff like this. But yeah, think about what your favorite podcast is, and then go ahead and go to their website, or if you already know how they like to be supported, support that show. Thanks and good night. Hey, everybody, it's Scoots here. This is our ongoing episodically modular series, Spice Friends. I have trouble saying that, Spice Friends. And it's a tale of a world pretty much like our world and a little bit in the future. Episodically modular means you can listen to them in any order. So even though this is episode 3, don't worry. You could listen to episodes 1 and 2 after you listen to episode 9 and 10. And it just, or episode 3 first, and then episode 1 and 2. Because I'm going to tell you everything you need to know right now. That way, that's like you say, well, I like reoccurring characters, but I don't like having to listen to things in order. I say that's what episodically modular is all about. So tonight's episode and the series Spice Friends, this is one of those series could have multiple titles. The big ones, big emojis, or the Spice Friends. Because thus far we knew about the big ones and our two main characters, President Willow Smith and the astronaut. I should have done a series. Maybe that'll be like the Winter Soldier. That'll be like a little Cold War espionage series. I'll do one other day, some other day. So, okay, so where were we? Well, so the series is about, so President Smith, she's the president of the Cooperative Nations, which is a broader, more, I think, more than just what would be called the United States, but like, she's what we would call president of the world. That's the easiest way to say it, but not in some sort of elected way. We haven't got into any parliamentary procedure at all. But because that would say that would actually keep, some people might say Thomas Guide. I want more Robert's Rules of Order. And I'd say, well, there's probably a podcast out there for that, but this isn't the one. So let's just go with the fact that President Smith is president of the world in shorthand, that it, took me 5 sentences to say. And the astronaut is an astronaut that went to outer space and returned with some secret information, special knowledge. The special knowledge you need to solve a big problem. In this case, the problem was the big ones. And again, the big ones are something you're familiar with for the most part if you've consumed any kind of film. If you've been around for the past, any time in the last 100 years, you've probably seen them portrayed in different media. They're giant beings. They like to step on stuff. Sometimes they raise their voices. Sometimes they get into dances with one another. They go out, they go to cities. Skyscrapers tremble when you see a big one. And if you're a skyscraper, you might, especially neon signs. If you're a neon sign or someone that lives near a neon sign, you say, oh boy, that's a big one. Is that, moth breath who's in this episode, or, lizard head, or ankylosaurus, or, somebody, I don't know. Those aren't necessarily big ones, but, so we lived in a world just like you see in the movies at one time. Actually, when President Smith was vice president of the United States, big ones came. And her father, President Smith, they happened to be the first father-daughter president-vice president team. He did his best to deal with stuff, and he dealt with it, or he bought us enough time, actually, and he got all the big ones on this island called Big One Atoll. That had been our solution for a while. But, things go through phases. But President Smith got him there. President Smith went to the big one in the sky. But President Smith actually took a super serum that turned President Smith into a big one. That happened before our series, though. But would be a cool movie to see. Probably won't see it because people say that's like doesn't. They say so a regular person. I say, well, no, not a regular person. President Smith. A hero who had now I'm telling you a backstory, but a hero who had lost a lot of stuff, and still wanted to save so many things and still had so many things to save, gave all, not just everything, but also his humanity and his role as president of the United States to become a big one himself, to get the big ones to Big One Island again, so Planet Zipper could put them in hibernation. Also, our entire planet in hibernation. But it ends up big ones hibernate longer. If your whole planet gets hit by what I could assume is a hibernation ray or beam. But so, yeah, this is probably a better point to introduce. All of the big ones for a while had been asleep on Big One Island, hibernating. The astronaut returned from a trip to Planet Zipper where the astronaut was supposed to get secret knowledge to deal with the big ones on a longer-term basis. President Smith, of course, she was like, this is great. What do you got? Some sort of serum or some sort of, device? Or like what? Some sort of technique? He said, yeah, I do have a technique. It's called children's programming and the joy of dance and song. And even though this is fiction, so it's not based on any sort of sound practices for teaching lessons through joy and dance, this astronaut was like based, like if they were in a non-fictional world, that of course would happen. But they said, yeah, we're going to teach song and dance to children and everything's going to work out with these big ones. And of course, President Smith said, I have constituents here to deal with, and so I'm going to have to make alternative plans. Because what are we going to do? And then a big one awoke, moth breath, the big moth. And then moth breath sealed all the other big ones in cocoons, or not cocoons, but, wrapped them in silk. Then we found out that the big one, that there's some sort of followers of moth breath that were singing to moth breath, and they claimed to be able to control moth breath. And they said, by the way, we want a bunch of stuff and a bunch of power, or we're going to, moth breath's going to do stuff. Now, we never determined if they were if they were telling the truth or not, because the astronaut did point out, well, it seems like this behavior is how moth breath would behave either way. Now, meanwhile, President Smith was like, well, what about this solution from Planet Zipper? And they had kind of introduced these characters called the Spice Friends over the past few years that were super popular on cereal and stuff, and they were supposed to launch a show. Originally, it was just supposed to be part of a broader show, but then last week, it turned out they said, well, let's go with the Spice Friends idea. And they taught a pretty simple lesson about how, like, dancing and saying, hey, I see you. I'm so glad to see you. Welcome, come on in. Oh, you're having strong feelings? Okay, I can see that. I'm here to help. It was more or less the crux of the show. And ended up that actually worked. Oh, because the astronaut had a manifestation theory who said, all of a sudden these big ones appeared on Earth right around the time we started futzing around with splitting atoms and fusing them and fissioning them. And basically, does that stir some sort of archetypal deep feelings in humans, knowing that humanity has crossed a threshold of discovery where the threshold is powerful enough, to unhumanity everybody? And what is that what true, like, how come the big ones appeared then? A lot of people say, well, it's probably because they want to eat that stuff or something. And the manifestation theory would say, no, it's because once we had those strong feelings, it created the big ones. So now I'm putting words in the astronaut's mouth, but more or less, I think we can manifest something not in opposition to those feelings, but like something that also manifests from feelings that are more positive and maybe more empowering. And then if you don't, what harm could it be in empowering children through the power of song and dance? I'm sure someone would find a way, but at least in this story, it's a good thing. Now, turns out, astronaut was right. They started doing these dances. It did take a few different writing sessions and rehearsals. All of a sudden, a giant cinnamon stick with a big smile, arms and legs, same size as moth breath, appears in moth breath's path as moth breath is approaching the shoreline of a country. And that's where we left off. Big smiling, big eyes, beautifully kind-looking giant cinnamon stick, and then a big moth, known as moth breath. But here we've got a big Hollywood actor whose heart is bigger than anything else. Well, maybe not as big as his smile and his charm, but probably it is. That's probably where it comes from anyway. Mr. Antonio Banderas. Thank you, Scooter. Is the ladies, is the gentlemen, is the boys, is the girls, the friends beyond the binary. It's time for an adventure with our spice friends. Spicy. Oh, thanks. That's Mr. Antonio Banderas, and this is Spice Friends, everybody. Okay, I'm recording here, and I'm trying to assess how things are going. I mean, this first recording, I'm still kind of having trouble absorbing things. There is a giant smiling cinnamon stick, one of the Spice Friends that I've seen, and believe it or not, as an aside, that is actually my favorite cereal, Cinnamon Spice. And I know it's changed over the years because originally it looked like cinnamon sticks, and then there was some confusion around that they're not real cinnamon sticks. They were cereals, so then it was changed to its current incarnation. But I love the flavor and the crunch. So I guess that makes it even harder for me as president of the world, shorthand, to think clearly. And if I hadn't lived my life, I would think I was in a dream, and I still wonder if I'm in a dream, but I know I'm not because I have a lot of responsibility to carry through with. So as I'm recording this, I just watched Cinnamon Spice come out of the sea or appear in the sea. And it's a bright sunny day. Cinnamon Spice came up and stood between the shore and Moth Breath, who was flying. And Moth Breath has kind of been circling and yelling. And I'm watching multiple live feeds now, and I have a meeting because we got. Well, I guess I have a meeting with you. I'm waiting for you to contact me and come in here. I don't know who's going to be listening to this. Maybe you will be, but it is heavy for me, and I can't help but be excited to see what is happening, and I hope you're right, and I hope this is the solution. I also am trying to figure out what's going on Big One's atoll. But yeah, part of me is like, this could be it. This could solve everything. Also, well, I don't know. So okay, so Moss Breath is now moving in, and Cinnamon Stick has been slowly backed towards the shore. And, okay, Moth Breath is kicking up we've seen this pattern of behavior before, kicking up a lot of sand and kind of creating a tornado with its wings. Oh, no. So Cinnamon Stick fell down. And this is the Cinnamon Stick is getting buried in, there's giant dunes on this shore, and the dunes are, okay, well, sorry, I'm not good at recording this because Cinnamon Stick is being buried in the sand in a sandstorm. It's hard to see, but it's pretty clear that the giant dunes kind of rolled down onto Cinnamon Stick. So, well, that was a pretty quick change in my feelings, because if Cinnamon Stick, okay, they said you're about to come in, I'm going to have to pause this recording. But if that stick is not coming out of that sand, that's one option down. I have two options left, seemingly. So, okay, let me, let me pause it. I was recording something. Okay, I'm back, and it's been a little while since I hit record on this, and I don't know if this will stir your memories, but we talked about it and you were excited, and then you were less crestfallen than me. I think probably because you don't have as much responsibility as me. But you also had, you said, trust me, it's going to be okay. Don't worry. Or go ahead and worry, but it's still going to be okay. Well, Cinnamon Stick will get through this. And for a short time, the whole world, there was news reports and takes on it that Cinnamon Stick was buried and in the sand and not coming out. Moth Breath seemed to be pretty thorough in its burying of Cinnamon Stick. And then Moth Breath headed inland to deal with the port that had launched the ship, that had the materials that it was meant to create a distraction. Now, meanwhile, you had said, don't worry, we're going to go. We've got a show ready to go, live to air. The writing team and the entire team has been working on ideas, and we're going to get Cinnamon Stick up. And you did this show about falling down and saying again these kind of same things. Hey, I see you there. I see you fell down. Go ahead and get back up. Wow, did that, but go ahead and get up. And you had some different chants and call and responses to that. And Cinnamon Stick did unbury itself and dust itself off, very similar to the message you gave to the children and the adults and the parents and the young adults and the older adults and the sentient mammals watching the show, or even non-sentient mammals, because I saw my cat watching it. But my cat may be familiar with Cinnamon Stick, though not a giant Cinnamon Stick from this box is a cereal that throughout my life I ate. So it was kind of convenient, I guess, with the cereal design at least, because then you created like a little mini churros, which are very, very similar to Cinnamon Stick. But I know that was just licensing. I know you weren't even on Earth working on the cereals, but it was part of the plan. And I guess I did feel a connection to Cinnamon Stick, so I was relieved as Cinnamon Stick kind of started waving. And at the time, I didn't realize this, but at the same time saying, like, looking at Moth Breath and letting Moth Breath know that Cinnamon Stick could see Moth Breath. And Moth Breath circled around, though Cinnamon Stick was still on the ground, and you said, don't worry, we have a plan. And you had already kind of done another show. And it meant a lot to me, I guess, because there was always these truisms, right? Bend, don't break was one of them that you kind of turned on its head and lean in. But also, what's the chances that Cinnamon Stick's natural shape, or I guess, well, the natural shape of a produced cinnamon stick, which is curled in on itself, would actually be perfect for absorbing wind gusts and propelling them back towards the gust, the source. So, I don't know, I can't remember the song because I had so many things going on, but bend, don't break, lean in. Your natural shape will take, the wind will head back towards its wake or so. I can't remember. It was catchy, and I liked how there was dancing and leaning in. And I don't know if this is just me, but the idea that Moth Breath was still in this passive action or passive active conflict, like, again, very much like different martial arts. Even though at this point it was still at a distance, taking the wind, blowing it back at Moth Breath, and Moth Breath getting more and more frustrated. Now, at the same time, I had to take action because I didn't know how this was going to turn out. I know how I wanted it to turn out. So I'd sent a large team undercover to Big One's atoll, and we had already kind of had a team there, but we sent a larger team to deal with these people that had a moth-based belief system because they had gotten in, and we did not know about them. I mean, Big One's atoll is large, and we try, even with the teams we have living there, they're supposed to maintain very, very low profile because the worst thing that could happen is you wake the big ones up. So we sent them to meet, to gather up the people who believe in moth breath, who woke moth breath, and we're going to start interviewing them and trying to find out what's going on, because you have your own opinion on it, that moth breath was just foul. And now, okay, I'm watching. Going to have to stop because this is another thing that's about to unfold between moth breath and... Oh, wait a second. So you had another song just coming out about spicy, and moth breath tried to use its beak to take some cinnamon stick, which we learned from the whole cinnamon cereal, cinnamon stick thing. You don't want to take a bite of a cinnamon stick. It's hard and spicy. And I like that spicy, spicy chant, that one. But so, I don't know. I do not want to be placed in my father's position again. And I'm not talking about the position of becoming a big one. I'm talking about the choice my father made that led to all of that. Because the choice I'm facing would be much more amplified in order to so I'm just hoping this works out, because we're talking about 1,000 times more powerful than what my father had to do. But now they're going back and forth in some sort of dance, which it looks like, this is a bit like wrestling, like dramatized wrestling, professional wrestling, I think is what it was called. And they're going back and forth, flipping one another and spinning, and moth breath is diving and splashing. And I just wonder how this is going to turn out. This is interesting. So I guess I'll have to wait till you're going to catch me up. Okay, so I'm recording again, and I have two things in balance. One is that this is still going on, and you are very excited. The whole world's excited. For the most part, a large portion of the world is cheering for cinnamon stick, though there does seem to be some fans of moth breath, which doesn't seem to make any sense to me. But I guess people, contrarians are to the contrary. And you're working, it seems like, because I guess my question is, how much can we control this, right? And then can we win? Can cinnamon stick defeat moth breath? And what does that mean? And it seems like cinnamon stick, that you're kind of, I don't know if lagging indicator is the wrong word, but when you broadcast something, it has some effect, an indirect effect on cinnamon stick. Now, the good news is all the other reports have gotten, now these aren't helpful, they're just good news, is that this participatory thing is being very well responded to by children and adults throughout the world. And so that is very, very exciting, as if we have a long-term solution, because so it is helpful, and you are helping with their feelings. But I just don't know, in the face of two giant beings, how helpful that is right now. But it is a piece of good news that I want to talk about because it helps me talk while I'm waiting here and watching this, and my advisors are trying to knock and say, and I said, no, I need to focus. I need my talk out time to talk. In this case, I'm talking to you. I don't know if you knew that I used to make recordings for my father before this. And some would say it was silly, and some I would delete, or most I would delete, because I knew he could hear me, or I believed he could hear me. Or sometimes I did. So most of the time I just, another part of me said, this is silly, but it does have a practical use. Now, you did invite me into the writer's room and performer's room. And I will say that this is the first time I've seen you swept up in a wave of emotion, too. And everyone there, the atmosphere is electric, and I think you're connecting with the atmosphere. And you do seem to think that Cinnamon Stick can win. And it's interesting now, you being open to some consultations about strategy and saying, okay, well, we're not going to do it. We're just trying to slowly frustrate moth breath into making an error or tiring out, even though we know nothing about the physiology, or getting too close, and then Cinnamon Stick would embrace. I guess that's your theory. Is it to embrace or use a cinnamon stick, just like you channeled the wind through the channels of the cinnamon stick? Like, I don't know, you said you're working on, open up, or I don't know. I didn't follow all that because I said, okay. Because I guess I always think, then what? So Cinnamon Stick would hold moth breath in an embrace. And then what are we going to do? And you said, don't worry, we'll get to that when we get to that. But again, I say, okay, well, can Cinnamon Stick walk on the bottom of the ocean? Or can Cinnamon Stick swim? I mean, Cinnamon Stick's in a very, on the shores of a place that tried to plant a ship to use the big ones offensively, and who now feel like we're using, that got turned against them. So I'm supposed to just trust that things are going to work out, even though you said they're not going to work out 100% good or 100% bad. So I don't know. I just need to talk that out. And then the stuff with the people with the moth-based belief system. So this is just as confusing. When I started getting reports in, they said, yeah, most of these people are young adults, are almost kids. You would call them college age. And there are, range of adults and some younger children there too. But they got caught up in this idea, particularly moth breath. And I think the moth breath just has this allure about it, maybe because of the journey it took over the history of the big ones, from actually being a caterpillar to a moth, or whatever you call it, larvae or whatever, and that transformation. And then the fact that there were singers associated with, that it could be, I don't know, it's strange that out of all the big ones, that particular one had the most allure. But it's also a contrast to you, because now not everyone, as they've been getting the reports of these interviews that have been going on with all these moth-based believers, but there are some people that really believe in it, just like you believe in Cinnamon Stick and this performance of joy and dance. So it is interesting, right, that this is happening. They're both happening at the same time, and they do believe that they can influence moth breath, and that moth breath, and they're a little dismayed they said moth breath did what all you couldn't do, sealed up all the other big ones. And then all moth breath did was try to deal with the split atoms that were in that ship. Like, why would one place try to send split atoms to another place to attract big ones? Of course, moth breath's going to try to deal with that. And that moth breath is the hero we're looking for. Now, there's different degrees to that. There's people that just said, well, I just hoped, or what else am I going to do? Like, I wanted to take action. So, I don't know, I'm trying to identify and find the commonalities, because otherwise I would be in a place of just pure judgment where I can't think clearly. That's why I do these talk outs. Okay, so they arrived on the island. They made a home. They located moth breath. They'd met, over the interwebs and stuff, and participated and got interested and vetted one another. They had an application process and, to see who was participating. It was really actually thorough, and the reports I'm getting are very thorough. Obviously it's all easy to track, but that you could join and you could gather information and participate in the discussions about moth breath and this mythology, or I guess in a sense a religion. And you could do all that, but to get to the final stages, for the most part, you also had to participate and to ease your way into being a part of this group, this community. And, for the most part, part of me wants to say, okay, but except that they're making other demands, right, for a lot of goods. And they said, well, if you don't listen to, and I think that might be the youth, or there's theories coming in from the interviewers that it's like two leadership groups of the moth-based belief system, and one wants some more tangible results. But again, looking at it from, if I like putting myself in their shoes, you say, okay, well, what if the big ones are going to be around for a long time? Well, then we would need plenty of supplies and tangible goods for trade and different things, to keep us in a position of power. So I guess I can understand those demands. Or if moth breath, I don't think very many people are 100% in, right? They say, well, what if moth breath, let's get what we can, just in case things don't work out. What if moth breath doesn't just, we don't sing and moth breath does what we want moth breath to do? Now, they were also searching for beings from another planet, and that's a part of their belief system. I haven't had a chance to sit down and absorb everything. And I know this is somehow related, to the history of moth breath, but some of that stuff was uncovered as not true, and some of it was uncovered as plausible. But they're searching also for these two beings from another world that can also, they actually, they're not exactly controlling moth breath directly. They're making their pleas to these two twins from another world, where apparently they have twins as well. And the twins are influencing moth breath. But that's happening on a vibrational level, which goes into somehow related to your manifestation theory that I don't know, this confusing stuff. And one of the things that sticks most out to me, though, is motivation. Because I look at the similarities and I try to take 3 more steps, step into shoes and step also 3 steps back to look at things. And I look at your motivations and at least and your actions. Do they align with your motivations, which seems to be, or the other impacts of your actions, which is helping people feel their feelings about the big ones. and have some empowerment, right? That does seem to not be a pure motivation, but the results in what is driving the action is an empowered thing. I guess as a leader, I'd say, okay, that's a different kind of empowerment. Harder because I can't even buy into it totally. And again, I'm trying to figure out my choices that I have to make and that I don't want to make them. And that's why I'm talking things out too. Now, everyone with the moth-based belief system, even with these two kind of leadership styles within their community, most of the belief is not coming from the same place. Now, it's not coming from a place that's all good or all bad, but the feelings driving their actions and the results from their actions are more in the FEAR zone, where that's what's guiding their choices. So, and kind of the vibrations that are heading out from them is like, what can we do? Because this is not going well. And like almost like a place of non-acceptance. I can't accept, so I wonder if that's really your theory, which doesn't help me. None of it helps me, I guess. Because what if you're really, I mean, this is just my imagination now. So maybe I'm operating from that same space of not feeling on solid ground. But what if you're trying to teach us to live with the big ones? But then why would Cinnamon Spice materialize or come to our aid? I don't know. So what we know from Big One's atoll is that we don't really know anything. And why I'm talking things out is because I don't want to make a choice. I have one big option, which is to make Big One's atoll go bye-bye forever. But and all of the leaders of the world, of at least cooperative nations, but a lot of the other places are aware, and to make Big One's atoll go bye-bye. It is an atoll in a volcanic area, and while it's very isolated, making it go bye-bye with all the big ones in a way that we would be pretty certain would have an impact on a large swath of the world. It would kind of change the geography of the world and impact everybody in a non-positive way. So it's a trade-off, I guess you would say. And, my father was placed in a position as president of the United States to make it with Nevada and California and the western states. And people never, even I, could I still am trying to go through those stages of healing from that, I guess. And I guess we never had a chance because we were dealing with these other events, the big ones, and the changes in world leadership and all of those things. I don't know how much healing's been going on with that, and that was on a much smaller scale, though a large scale. So it's like I don't want to have to even make that choice because I don't know what I would choose, right? Even now, and I know what I have everybody's opinions, but it stops with me. But again, they say, well, if the big ones awake and leave big ones atoll, we should have, we should have done this earlier or whatever. And I say, no, we're not doing anything till the astronaut returns. And we test out the Planet Zipper plan. But I thought the Planet Zipper plan would involve some technology or some clear, tangible thing. So that said, as I've been talking, it seems like Cinnamon Spice is doing very well, and I just watching now is Moth breath has tried to do another strategy, but seems tired. Doesn't seem to have full power of flight. Moth breath is spitting now, silk spits. And I don't know, a couple of them, cinnamon stick kind of batted back, a couple of stuck on cinnamon stick. But it doesn't seem, I don't know if moth breath was trying to, make cinnamon stick not be able to, oh, it did, okay. So my theory was right. It's trying to cover up cinnamon stick's eyes. But you had already said, okay, we do suspect that the cinnamon sticks, the moth breath's last move, which now I'm watching it, will be to try to seal cinnamon stick up in silk. But it seems a little bit sloppy. I don't know if that's because of the exhaustion of moth breath. I don't even know how long this has been going on for, days. So right now moth breath is kind of circling and spraying cinnamon stick. Okay, now more in a deliberate way. Because again, we watch moth breath. I guess in the history of the big ones, we've seen this happen before in action. But not, when moth breath sealed up all the big ones on big ones, they told everyone was hibernating. Okay, but cinnamon stick is getting sealed up in silk, in a silk kind of cocoon. But you had said, don't worry, that's what we suspect will happen. We already have a plan, and we have it already set in place. And now everyone is watching. And, okay, so they're going to go to split screen and start airing the show. Oh, and you're using the spicy thing. Oh, and kind of like... and again, the same themes you've been using. Okay, I see you. You had something spicy, touched something hot. Oh, it's hot, it's spicy. Oh, but to kind of let it out, feel it, again, about, don't touch it again, or maybe not touch it, eat that again. I think that's what was that what that move said? Or that doesn't taste good? Okay, so spicy, it's hot, and a little back off, and now, moth breath is kind of circling above, but you can kind of already see the heat coming from, cinnamon stick. Wow. So it is working, and this one's even more of a direct, wow, I can even feel it. That might sound, well, I guess I don't know if you feel it at the broadcasting or your team feels it, but I guess I said the feeling was infectious. But this is happening live, and I know that the children of the world feel good about this, the people of the world, or at least maybe I'm imagining or maybe I'm feeling it. Wow, and the cinnamon stick standing up, the silk is kind of in oh no. What is moth breath doing? It landed not that far from cinnamon stick, all the tatters of the silk, moth breath kind of yelling, cinnamon sticks trying to rip off some of its, wait a second, now moth breath is taking off. It looks like it. Okay, I'll be back here in a second. I gotta check in with you. Okay, so, now it looks like our confidence was misplaced that I don't know how we fell into this, and you were very frustrated with yourself, not with me. And you said we lost, I guess I lost my, can you trust too much? Or what's the difference between trust and faith and overconfidence? It seems like we got caught up in that wrestling idea or the action, and I got caught up in it because I definitely underestimated moth breath. And as I watched things unfold, I fell into that I was swept away. But it seems like, at least apparently, moth breath, either moth breath made the most of a bad situation or had planned this and implemented it. It created a sling and took off with Cinnamon Stick into the sky. And there's nothing Cinnamon Stick can do because moth breath is flying pretty high. And you said that you lost your direction. I mean, this is all happening so fast, it's understandable, but you kind of got caught up in the action versus the purpose, and you're still saying, okay, we're working on this, so we don't know how this is going to unfold. Right now, you're telling people to just relax. It's going to be okay. But I mean, moth breath is definitely heading back to Big One's atoll, which leaves me in quite a position here. We've told the moth breath-based believers that we've given the option to leave with a lot of our teams that are leaving Big One's atoll. I mean, the return of a sentient moth breath. I mean, there could be, who knows what's going to happen with Cinnamon Stick and moth breath when they get to the island. But also that I have to make, we've given them the choice to stay, but that the island may not exist. And so everyone's getting as far away from the Big One's atoll as they can. But the reality is that this could work out in a way it could work out for the best in a way I don't want it to work out for the best. And now moth breath is circling Big One's atoll. And with Cinnamon Stick, well, moth breath dropped Cinnamon Stick right into the volcano and is now just circling the island and making a lot of noise. The volcano seems to be, maybe that's spicy, like it's ejecting things. That's probably not good. And there's a lot of steam coming from the island. Okay, but you're calling me in, so let me like you're of course going to tell me to hope. So I hope you're right. Okay, so back again. And so since we talked, moth breath has landed on the rim of the volcano and has been yelling, and the remaining moth breath-based believers are gathered. I don't know how good moth breath's eyes are, but singing and praising moth breath. But you theorized, and your show has gone through with, and it was impressive to watch this team of that had been assembled of writers from around the world and experts from around the world, and then the writers leaving and working on their own, and the performers that I guess you said the most important things are, can we see cinnamon spice, which was more of a question for everybody's hearts. And then to the team and to me, can we see the kids of the world seeing cinnamon spice? And I guess one thing is, I guess I'm not sure I want to feel all this when I know what my choice has to be, right? But then you said, can we see cinnamon spice, seeing us, seeing cinnamon spice, or seeing the children of the world? And I said, holy John Berger, this is a totally different direction, though. So we're seeing the children of the world having their real feelings, seeing cinnamon spice. And we and the children of the world are supposed to also be imagining or seeing themselves as cinnamon spice, seeing that And I don't know how you did it through song and dance and metaphor. I mean, at least for me, you just broke it down clearly because I don't know if I guess I didn't need to pick up, or the children don't need to pick up on that. That's what you were doing. And then that how Cinnamon Spice is doing, and then seeing Cinnamon Spice, seeing Moth Breath, and then seeing Moth Breath, seeing the big ones, because there has been some activity with the big ones. We don't, I don't know, there's like reports on the ground, we cleared out so many people that one of the big ones is stirring from some of the volcanic activity. But that also drove you to say, well, how do you think Moth Breath is feeling about all this? And then, again, it seemed to work. I said, what is this going to manifest something else or what? And I know, and I did know that one of the things was stirring hot cocoa with the cinnamon stick, and that just suddenly everybody, but that you could do that literally or imaginatively, in thinking about the volcano and your feelings and all that. I picked up on that metaphor. Well, is it a metaphor? And then steam started to rise out of the volcano. And a different kind of steam, and Moth Breath just kind of sat there, staring, looking, right, and then looking at the steam, and then looking at the big ones, looking at Big Ones Atoll, looking at the moth-based believers, and it getting more and more steamy, and that was kind of the song, steamy, it's hot, steamy, it's hot, steamy, I feel hot, I mean, this is, again, strange to say, but I'm trying to talk things out and feel them and talk them out and feel them. I mean, these are tools that, I've learned over the years too, but like I haven't been in touch with those feelings about my father or about being in a leadership position and making choices that are tough and that I don't want to make. And not wanting to have hope, so I could feel it too. And then also, well, we got carried away earlier when I was having feelings and, but that makes me feel steamy, it's hot. And more and more steam seemed to pour over Moth Breath, and Moth Breath got wetter and steamier and steamier. And then, I mean, I don't know, I've seen some of the stills, I've seen some of the videos. It did seem like there was a steam version of Cinnamon Stick there for a time, sitting next to Moth Breath and also enveloping Moth Breath. First arm around the shoulder. I don't know, like, was that the dance? It's just in my head of sitting, putting your arm around somebody having cocoa, stirring it with a cinnamon stick. Is it my man? But so steamy, it's hot. And then that change started to occur. The Moth Breath started to get so wet and shaggy, and the steam kind of seemed to absorb Moth Breath in a steam cocoon, I guess is all you could say. And we couldn't see anything, other than the steam pouring off the mountain and the steam and the fog surrounding Big Ones Atoll. And then out of that into the sky. And again, because of satellites and everything, we had the shots, there was drones from different media organizations. And above the steam flew something that was different than Moth Breath, but that was somehow a fusion of Moth Breath and Cinnamon Stick. Flying with a kind of steamy hot grace higher and higher into the sky and out of our atmosphere, out of our world. And from all reports, we're having trouble following them or tracking them. But that they've left Earth and they've passed the I don't know where they're going. I mean, part of me wants to say Planet Zipper, or I don't know. So I guess I can't shake it. Are they coming back? What are they doing? What was that? But I don't have that luxury either. I have to make a decision. We have another big one stirring. So I have to kind of take some time now, listen to the advice coming in, the opinions coming in, the facts coming in, and make a choice here and process it while we wait and see which big one is waking up now. Right now, there's still a lot of steam and fog. Is there a big one about to come out of hibernation? Multiple big ones. My choice, but I'm going to feel my feelings about it too. I'm going to feel steamy. I'm going to feel spicy. But I'm also going to try to see everybody that's having those feelings inside me. And even when I consult with everybody, I hope. So in some sense, I guess I'm saying thank you. But also, I'm saying thank you as a warning because I'm going to have other strong feelings that might impact how that I'm not treating you from a place of caring, of seeing you, how you're seeing things, or seeing you having feelings from seeing things too. So I hope I can stay connected to that. So thanks for putting that tool in my toolbox, and I'll miss cinnamon spice, but I guess I could have a bowl. I don't know if I could have a bowl of it, but I'm going to rest for a little while before I try to move on to this next decision-making process. So if you're listening to this, I'm going to see myself saying goodnight to myself. Good night. All right, this is Scoots. I want to thank everybody that reviewed the podcast recently. Helene from Great Britain said, my whole family listens. My daughter loves Bake Off. My husband and I love all of them. Scooter's kind and sweet and helps put us to sleep. Yeah, then a recent trend has people promoting other podcasts in the reviews, which don't necessarily appreciate. Tonal says, this podcast really works. Appreciate your efforts. Thank you. KT says, like magic. It took a couple of days to get used to the podcast, but now I don't even get past the intro. Stories sound inviting. Best podcast for sleeplessness. So thank you. Very helpful. That's from Allie. Listened to it for 2 nights recently, and it really helped me fall asleep. Thank you so much. So those are all the reviews. Then I think we signed up for a referral program recently. Abigail, Alexis, Lex already got a referral. Lori, Mary, Aiden, James, Sarah signed up, already got 1 referral. Austin, Heidi signed up, got 4 referrals already. You do have to remember to share your link multiple times. You can sign up at sleepwithmepodcast.com/refer. MJ Bruce Leggy's got a referral. Kathy, Stephanie, Amy, Griffin, Mary, David, Mal, Louisa, Nick, Mark, Elena, and Faith. So thanks everybody that signed up for a referral program. And thanks to all of you that are sharing your link on a regular basis, because it does take, just like on the podcast, I do stuff on a regular basis. It does take a little bit of repeated just sharing and stuff. So thanks for supporting the show. Sleep With Me exists as a show because of people who support the show, whether it's our referral program, Patreon, or supporting our sponsors. We're just spreading the word for, when it comes up in natural conversation, even if it's just about podcasting. So thank you so much. Couldn't do it without all of you. And what else? I think that's it. Here's a little bit more Tuck You In sponsor that has been able for us to expand the episodes in the feed. Thanks. Hey, everybody, this is Scoots with a Tuck You In message here for our bedtime story podcast. We're trying out And I kind of said this, free way to support Sleep With Me and bedtime stories from Sleep With Me is join our referral program, sleepwithmepodcast.com/refer, R-E-F-E-R. You get rewarded for introducing people to a free version of Sleep With Me, including access to Sleep With Me Plus. But most of all, just think about what your favorite podcast is or one of your favorite podcasts, and then support that podcast. It doesn't have to be Sleep With Me, but just to support your favorite podcast because they could use your support right now. And if you decide, Sleep With Me is actually my favorite podcast, well, wow, blushing, seriously, even though it's imaginary here in this context, and support it at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus, or listen to a show you love and see how they want to be supported. Thanks.